Hey guys, what is going on? Ephemeros here. So, super glad, and hey, welcome back to the posting schedule, whatever that means. Anyhow, the Discord server will open soon. It's this week, like this week right now, and actually, I think a commenter asked. I think it was Jody Moon. Hope you've been doing okay. And also thank you for your comment. I think they were asking like, hey, when's the Discord server gonna open? And I already said this like 2 weeks ago. Like the Discord server will probably open like 2 weeks after. And it's been 2 weeks after. So therefore, yeah, I will open the server this week. Probably in the middle of like posting schedule. And the main thing I like said to them was like, I don't think, because I've never run a server, right? So I was like, I don't think I'll ever be quote unquote ready, right? To kind of run it. So I'm just like, like why not? I'll just stick to what I said. Why not, right? But yeah, it will open soon for those of you that have been wanting to get in. And yes, sorry for the wait. The getting past 100k 100k, whoa, hey, we'll get there, but I mean, like, holy shit, getting past the 1k threshold, like, I got by it so fast that I kind of had like whiplash. I'm like, oh, what the fuck. I was like 700 subscribers at the time. And apparently when I started asking people, because I usually don't ask people, right, to subscribe, because I really did want to get to 1k, of course, as a YouTuber. It actually happened so fast. I'm like, holy fuck, what is going on? Where I was getting like like 200 subscribers, like, I don't know, a month, or like over like 2 weeks of some sort. I forgot what time frame it was, but you get the idea. And I'm usually like, I know it's good for like growth, I suppose, but I'm usually shy of like asking people like, hey, uh drop a like and subscribe, because usually it's, I don't know, I just don't want to seem like, you know how it is, like, you know how the YouTube game works. That's how it is, right? But I don't want to just seem like I'm promoting my content, like, subscribe. Like, do I want people to like and subscribe to it? Sure, but like with their own free choice. But like, I did forget that, like, I mean, yeah, most of the time, even when I watch a video by a creator like multiple times, it literally, even if they have a reminder in the video, it flies past my head like, oh shit, they want me to subscribe. So I do hope you guys understand. But yeah. Anyhow, although yes, if you do want to support me, and I do want to keep you guys notified, please do subscribe and like the video to kind of push the engagement. Anyhow, God, enough of my yapping out of the way. This has been recommended to me about, I think, 2 weeks ago. No, not 2 weeks ago. Actually, very recently. But there were requests from hailing from like 2 weeks ago up to like a month or 2 months, and I mean, it's just been, I just haven't gotten to it. That's like simple as it is, right? I'm getting a lot of video requests, and I'm sure you guys understand, like, while those video requests are fucking awesome, right, half of them I do forget to just kind of save in my private, like, personal Discord server. And it's like only me in that server, right? It's just like kind of my notebook. But yeah, I did eventually pull up this tab, and ignore the tabs, okay? We will not speak of this of these forbidden lands. That is my YouTube tabs. I don't know, man. I've been saving a lot of shit. Anyway, so this is by SuperRAD. Again, very requested person, like over the span of like, I won't say like, I don't say very requested I don't say very requested because it's like heavily requested in a short amount of time, but it's like consistently, they're like, hey, You should watch this video. Like over, like, you know, they were telling it to me over a course of like a long time, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, let's get around it. And you know me, I am a pretty big fan of like Monster Hunter weapons. The design is just so cool. Is it not? You got like shit like I think it's called I don't know what is it called? Switch? No, a charge blade, where you could literally turn your fucking sword into like a temporary heavy hitting axe. Is that not cool? Tell me what the fuck else you've heard that before. It's so cool, bro. Like, come on. And it's not like as much as I like learning about quote unquote how they function, because that's really just how I am in terms of like curiosity. It's just a lot of wow factor, bro. And we love wow factors every once in a while. Why not? Why not? Anyway. Also, yes, we'll probably cut the video in like parts, because this is, mind you, this is like nearly 5 hours. I think our first part will probably end here at the sword and shield, because this is a little crazy. Anyway, let's get into this, bro. Let me just change it 420p. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, wait, let me read this first. This is a what? This is a collection of previous history books. Some have had to be reworked slightly due to being made before the the Rise demo. My fucking hat is like completely black, and it's also covering. I was like, is that an F? Whoops. Okay. If there are any mistakes, including editing errors, I apologize in advance. Hey, fair enough, bro. Oh, we're getting the longsword first. Okay.
Since I first started playing Monster Hunter, there is one weapon I have solely mained
Let me
throughout the
just-
entire series. The best weapon in the series, the longsword. Now that every generation of Monster Hunter has been
There you go.
covered and every update of Frontier, there's various specific aspects of the game that I'd like to cover. To start, today we'll be going over the history of the longsword, focusing less on the development of the weapon and more on how it evolved over each game and each generation. Keep in mind that
Okay, so we're not really getting into lore stuff, but more of like how it was iterated through later updates and next games. Okay, I like it. I like it.
there's
Fuck yeah.
less development history to
Talk to
go
me
over,
nice.
so these videos will probably be short in comparison to the previous history videos. There are a lot of
This is short. Jesus Christ. Shout out to Nugget one time saying your reactions are getting longer. Soon it's gonna be a 24/7 live stream.
revisions and fine-tuning with this weapon. A lot of design decisions moved back and forth through multiple games,
Oh, wow,
such as
breaking
whether or
news.
not the player would lose one level of charge or the entirety of their charge when the charge gauge runs out. And there's been a history of disdain for this weapon, from its weeb design to its extended hitbox, which can collide with other hunters.
What do you mean weeb design? I don't get. What's the weeb design here? Is it because it's like stupidly long? I mean, it's called a long sword. I don't. Wait, actually, yeah, it does look more katana-like. But like, are we not surprised? I mean, I don't know. This is gonna sound racist, right? Like, seriously. But like, is it not really that appropriate? I mean, like, the devs are literally like Japanese, and the longsword being a katana is like, is that really a surprise of any sort? I know that sounds racist, right, or stereotypical. Just because you're Japanese, you don't like katanas. But like, if like this design came from there, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, it just seems pretty cool to me.
And interrupt or trip them mid-combo. Due to this and the
what did he
popularity
say?
of the
Hold on.
weapon, longsword is rather
the
notorious
fucking
among
volume.
Monster Hunter fans.
Oh my god, not the volume.
There's been a history of disdain for this weapon, from its weeb design to its extended hitbox, which can collide with other hunters and interrupt or trip them mid-combo.
That's crazy.
Due to this and the popularity of the
sucks.
weapon, longsword is rather notorious among Monster Hunter fans. But
They're divided, and I get it, bro. I get it. If some reckless ass longsword user was in your party and started tripping you up, you're like, hey, what the fuck, bro? Imagine you ruin a TCS. Oh man.
how has it evolved since its initial inception in Monster Hunter DOS? Today we'll take a look at all of the design changes, revisions, and additions to the weapon from Generation 2 all the way to Rise. I'm SuperRAD, and this is Monster Hunter: History of the Longsword.
Okay. That's some groovy ass music. I like it.
Wouldn't actually appear within the initial release of the series. Despite this, there were several greatswords with longsword adjacent designs, but the functionality and classification of the weapon wouldn't be introduced until Monster Hunter DOS's release, and the West wouldn't see the weapon until the release of Monster Hunter Freedom 2. Like all weapons, the hunter would have access to various upgrade paths, including the bone path and the iron path, with bone focusing more on status ailments and elements, while the iron path focused more on damage and sharpness. The weapon was especially interesting for two reasons. To start, it has the ability to combo infinitely. By alternating between using your vertical slashes and thrusts, the hunter has the ability to continually attack without...
Holy shit, that took like 5 seconds to pause. Sorry, let me just run it back a little bit. Why is my shit lagging, bro? Yo, calm down. Okay. What was I gonna say? My god, okay. It is such a contrast. Like, right now in MH Worlds, I'm using like the complete pure like bone path of my like bone greatsword. And instead of like status effects, as he said, mine is like more focused on like just pure raw damage. Like with like way less sharpness, of course, but you get the idea. Like be super big, chunky hits.
Using your vertical slashes and thrusts, the hunter has the ability to continually attack without requiring a pause animation. This can also be comboed into the Fade Slash ability, which allows the user to hop backwards, away from the direction that they are facing. This made the weapon highly mobile while being able to output a large amount of damage, making it an incredibly popular choice for many hunters. The second and arguably most unique aspect of the weapon is the Spirit Gauge. In Gen 2, a lot of the functionality of the gauge that we are familiar with now is missing. Things like the roundhouse slash and charge levels were not yet implemented. Instead, hunters were simply expected to maintain their gauge. Maxing out the gauge.
Oh, so you were, because they gave you access to this some infinitely comboing thing, they expected you like, hey, okay, we gave you the tools, keep up your own gauge. Is that like, because that seems like pretty fair design, but I could see why it may cause problems.
Would activate an effect that applied a hidden 12% increase in raw damage, as well as a non-hidden +10 to raw. This effect would last about 25 to 30 seconds if not attacking anything, and the Spirit Gauge would stop depleting over time, instead only being used up by attacks from the Spirit combo. An additional aspect of these spirit moves were that they didn't cause a bounce animation if the hunter's sharpness was low, allowing the hunter to continue their combo regardless. As a weapon, it offered many advantages, including high damage output, mobility, and range. However, as a slashing weapon, the longsword is ineffective at breaking parts that are weak to impact, such as horns or fangs. Still, it was an incredibly useful slashing weapon for dealing damage to heavily armored monsters thanks to its spirit combo. To be efficient with the weapon, it pays to be patient. Thanks to the Fade Slash and the large delay windows, the weapon can be cancelled out of combos and repositioned fairly easily if practiced.
Cancelled out of? Oh, wow. Holy, look, I'm a GS user, bro, so you know why that's shocking for me. You cannot cancel out. You can cancel some animations by like rolling, but even then, it would just be better to let the animation finish. But by that point, the monster's probably attacking, so back to the rolling might be better.
This allows alert players to constantly reposition without losing out on DPS and wait out their next attack based on the telegraph of the monster. Does it make sense to keep the combo going, or does it make more sense to Fade Slash out of the way? Now, Generation 3 changed a lot for Monster Hunter in general, but some of the updates to Longsword were so iconic that they would have a ripple effect throughout the entire series. One big change was that the Spirit Gauge would no longer be depleted through attacks if full. Instead, the player could perform part of a Spirit combo, cancel out of it, and start over without a full gauge depleting at all. However, a new move was introduced to finish the combo called the Spirit Round Slash. By performing a full combo, the hunter would finish with a high damage horizontal slash that sheathes their weapon automatically. Doing so will charge the weapon by 1 tier, starting with a white glow around the weapon. The player then has a limited amount of time before the charge depletes to perform the same combo again. This allows them to move up in the charge levels, starting from white to yellow to red, which offers the largest damage boost. One of the big issues in Try was that the charge level didn't visually inform the user when it was depleting, meaning there were many chances for the user to perform a roundhouse slash too late, only to lose all of their charge tiers and gauge. The red charge depleted the fastest, but by continuing to perform roundhouse slashes, players could refresh it, allowing the hunter to remain in the red throughout the entirety of the hunt if they played the weapon efficiently. Try also introduced an upgrade to the Fade Slash. Players were no longer limited to moving backwards, but can now dictate which direction they would jump toward, making the weapon even more versatile. Portable Third attempted to rebalance the weapon slightly, nerfing how the spirit gauge depleted, once again using spirit combos.
Jesus Christ, it takes so long to pause. Anyway, God, what was I thinking of? Whatever. Oh my god, I lost my thought.
On a full gauge would deplete it with each attack, so the hunter was back to having to properly utilize gauge gains at all time. However, they made up for this in two ways. One, the charge level now visually conveyed how close it was to running out over time. Two, allowing the charge level to run out simply reverted you to the previous level, so yellow to white or red to yellow as an example, making it much less punishing overall. Most of these changes carried over into 3 Ultimate as well, with minor revisions, meaning Portable Third and 3U were both a very successful high point for longsword users, as keeping consistent damage was much easier at this point in the series, but it would be Generation 4.
Yeah, and if you're like outputting... If you're outputting like more consistent damage like over a period of time, and obviously, you know, as a longsword user, you would see it like rack up, you know, damage easily because you're getting bonuses from the charge, right? You would see like what is basically a cut in like hunting time. You would like hunt a lot shorter because it would go by quicker because your damage is so consistent and it's also pretty high. So yeah, you play this weapon right. This quite the jackpot. My god.
We began to see power creep and the abilities of the weapon explode. Like I said, Generation 4 is where things start to get a little crazy. Monster Hunter 4 didn't see too many additions to what was already available to the weapon at the time. Hunters did gain the ability to spirit combo out of the Fade Slash, adding more options to their maneuverability. But the charge function...
Because I feel like the spirit round slash whatever thing he just mentioned, I feel like that would get kind of repetitive if you're trying to build charge and maintain it. Like, in terms of, like, you know how the spirit round slash, I think a combo in of itself, or at least it looks to be, that would be quite repetitive. I like how I'm saying that would be quite repetitive. Great sword user, by the way. I got like 3 moves, bro.
Was once again reverted. If the hunter allowed their charge level to deplete, it would immediately go back to the base level, removing all bonuses. This would be a design decision that would go back and forth between the games and the generations until Gen 5, where the concept seems to have steadied out. One new move included was the ability to perform an upward slash out of a dodge. And for Ultimate, completing a roundhouse slash while in the red wouldn't actually recharge the red gauge, meaning the hunter had a firm 90-second charge of red boost and would have to work around that before their gauge depleted completely. For this reason, runners would generally stay in the yellow for the majority of the fight, switching to red when optimal, as it guaranteed that the hunter would have to start all over again. The big addition of all weapons this generation were aerial attacks, which would allow the hunter to mount the monster if they dealt
an dude, I fucking love these, man. The amount of times, like, I've aggressively, like, I don't know, let's say a Kulu-Yaku, and I had to hunt one, and I was just doing it for like materials and like oven roasting stuff. Man, it's like so fun to kind of aggressively play around them with the greatsword and then lead them somewhere, right? While I'm retreating, I'm gonna back up like near either a ledge or like a vine thing I can climb on, and then once it turns to my palico, you'll mount that motherfucker. It's really fun, bro. I cannot, man. That's really awesome.
Mounting damage to it. Longsword players can actually combo out of these attacks, leading to additional damage, spirit gauge gain,
sorry, my mic just fucking bumped. Oh my god.
and potentially a charge level. It was a rather punishing time for longsword players to go back to
Oh,
a full
wow.
depletion on their charge level, and there was a fair bit
Yeah.
of criticism towards the weapon, especially when playing online. But this would all change in generations. I'm not going to discuss all of the hunting styles and how they affected the weapon, but I do want to focus on Valor, which was introduced in the Ultimate Edition of the
Valor.
generation's release. Valor specifically makes some of the biggest gameplay changes for longsword and is widely considered to be the most effective style for longsword users in that entry, essentially overpowering the weapon. The Valor sheathing mechanic acts as a dedicated evade, which, while not avoiding damage completely, heavily mitigates it. When in the sheathing
What?
stance, hunters have the ability to spirit slash, sheath, rinse, and repeat, building up their Valor gauge until they are at a full blue charge. Certain moves the hunter may
Wow.
be used to are locked behind the Valor gauge or the Valor mechanic in some capacity. For example, the Fade Slash doesn't fully become available until fully charged, but hunters can Fade Slash at any time out of the sheath stance. While the damage buff from the blue Valor charge is not as
That's
strong as
pretty
the
neat.
red, it's infinitely easier to gain and keep active. And with
Oh, for
moves
sure.
like Critical Juncture, Longsword was truly at the top of its game in this entry. Valor Longsword also had the additional
Man, I'm finna play Worlds after this. Either that or just, yeah. Dude, I am no. It's so fun, bro.
mechanic of properly timing the start of your spirit gauge combo to lead into
Dude, what is this longsword? This looks cool as fuck. I was just like, is that
a
serrated?
counter.
It is. It's like a hook. Oh my
If
god,
the
that's
hunter
cool.
times the start of their combo properly, as the enemy is attacking them, they'll lead into a high damage counter. This spirit counter could also lead into a shortened version of the full
Holy.
spirit combo, making one of the strongest moves of the weapon incredibly spammable. This really was
Insane.
the start of the longsword's legacy as a counter weapon and would define it moving into Generation 5. Funny enough, the weapon again reverted the charge level design on the normal styles, so that if the level runs out, it just moves down to the previous level instead of completely removing all benefits. Seriously, the weapon was insane in this entry.
I bet. My god. Here
It
we
feels
go.
like the
I'm
Monster
assuming.
Hunter-
I'm assuming. Wait, no. This is Worlds.
The world devs looked at the Valor Longsword and said, yeah, let's amp that up to 11. New
Oh,
moves,
God.
higher mobility. It seriously became a staple of the series in my opinion. In Base World, the biggest addition for every weapon was
Honestly, what I like about Worlds is this. Check this out. This little camera thing they do that I'm slowly observing more and more. Look at this shit, bro.
seriously became a staple of the series in my opinion. In Base World, the biggest addition for every weapon, it seriously became a
Hold on.
staple
What
of
happens here? Wait, I'm trying to see.
the series in my opinion. In Base
It's not just zooming
moves,
out.
higher mobility, it seriously became a staple of the series in my opinion. In Base World, the biggest addition for every weapon was being able to dodge in all directions.
It's kind of like they increase the. No, actually, they decrease it. It's almost like. Well, I'm speaking like a Minecraft term here, if it is a Minecraft term. What the fuck? What's up, bro? Sorry, my cat. It's like they pan down a little, right? They pan down a little to your characters. They're doing this cool move, and then they turn down the FOV just a bit so it looks much wider and covers like a bigger area for your character to do these like super flamboyant or flashy like moves with their weapons, bro. It's
The
so
series,
cool.
in
Look
my
at this shit.
11. New moves, higher mobility, it seriously became a
pan
staple of
down,
the series
and
in my
then-
opinion.
yep,
In
there you
Base
go.
World, the biggest addition for every weapon
And
was
then they
being
zoom
able to
back
dodge
in.
in all
Yeah.
directions, but
That shit is so cool. It's the little stuff, bro, that emphasizes the whole strike that just makes it. Oh my god, chef's kiss, mate.
for longsword users, this was less useful thanks to the Fade Slash. Luckily,
Fair.
they still got some branch of new moves, such as a sliding attack for easier mounting, as well as
Oh, right, actually, yeah.
dedicated abilities. Like the Spirit Thrust, players now had the ability to thrust their weapon into the monster. When hit, the player
Damn,
could then
okay.
launch into the air before
my
crashing
God.
down. If the hitbox of the sword met with the monster on landing, it would be hit by several high damage attacks all at once. This would become incredibly
insane.
strong at high charge levels, with the downside being that performing the attack would lower the user's charge level by 1. Foresight Slash was the
Fair. I mean, you're trading something. I know they have several other weapons like this that work in sort of a gauge or metered or whatever way. But, like, what I'm observing is that long sword or long blade? I'm really getting confused. Whatever, same thing. A longsword really does have that. You take this, I'll take some of this. You need to build it back up again type of deal. And like fair enough, man. If you want to play around that playstyle, that seems pretty cool, right? Is it a simple concept? I don't think so. Maybe I could see if it being called like a simple concept. Like it's just so cool, bro. Like and then you do have to work for the charge, obviously.
Next huge addition, hunters could cancel out of their delay window into the foresight slash, having them slide back away from the enemy. If the hunter is hit
Wow.
by the attack of a monster in a specific time window,
That's
they would
insane.
then dodge said attack and perform a counter. When the counter connects, they can follow it up with a
Yeah, I
rapid
saw that.
slash,
My God.
automatically boosting their charge level by 1. This move
Insane.
would completely drain the spirit gauge if the hunter didn't time it correctly, making it a risk versus
Wow.
reward scenario that promoted skillful knowledge of the enemy's moveset. Iceborne introduced
Yeah, no, that's counter for sure. Holy shit. I know he spoke about it being like cemented as a counter weapon, but now, yeah, no.
new mechanics revolving around the clutch claw, such as being able to use the slinger and clutch claw when the hunter's weapon is unsheathed. Longsword specifically could use the slinger mid-spirit combo, but clutch claw is garbage, and we're going to focus on the main new addition for the longsword, the special sheath.
Do people really not like the clutch claw? I've had someone talk to me about it recently, like, hey, you should download Iceborne to like get the clutch claw, and I'm like, honestly, I'm fine with fighting as is. Fighting as is like pretty fun. You know? Well, you're grounded and you gotta use the environment around you to actually sort of either mount the monster or like, I don't know, kick a paratoad, whatever. It's cool. I feel like it's cooler that way.
Players now had the ability to sheathe their weapon in between their combos. Doing so opened up a couple of new
Crazy.
options. The first was the normal EI slash. By attacking out of the sheath, the hunter would be able to do a special EI attack that, if connected, would add a regeneration effect to their spirit gauge for a
Damn.
limited time. This attack could even be comboed into the final attacks of the spirit combo, allowing the hunter to raise their charge level incredibly
That's
easily.
amazing.
Next, if the player activates their spirit combo while sheathed, they will perform the EI spirit slash, which deals high damage by itself and eats up a charge level if not timed correctly. There's additional benefit if timed right, however. Similar to foresight slash, if the player times the move with the monster's attack, they will evade it and deal additional high damage.
So
this is
peak.
possibly one of the highest points for longsword when it came to the abilities it had available to it on top of mobility
Yeah.
and the amount of damage it could produce in a short period of time. This wasn't without a few downsides, however, namely Helm Splitter's hitbox being
Mind you, he's doing like great sword-esque damage here. Not like TCS level. Like he's outputting consistent numbers that I'm seeing. Like obviously he's attacking a good part here. He's getting like orange numbers. Shout out to that one advice that said gray numbers are bad. Orange number good, basically. Thank you for that advice because that did actually like help quite a bit. Like I had an intuition that like wait, this part is like something's off. Right? When they tell me the damage is gray, I'm like, is that right? So I'm a bit confused, but it did feel off, right? And the fact it's giving me less damage, I'm like, that was a DCS. I should have more damage. But like the fact he's like hitting these like great parts and putting out damage of like damage ranging from like 40 to maybe 120 damage is insane. Especially like if we're talking about a consistent like comboing weapon here. That's quite good.
so poor
Wow.
that you'd often see hunters miss the mark of something that looked like it connected. Moving on, the Rise Longsword is potentially one of the most effective renditions in any entry with new and returning features that make it one of the most brain-dead options out there, so
Really?
of course you can understand why I'd want to main it. At its base, the weapon functions significantly similar to its predecessor in Monster Hunter World, but with a few worthwhile changes. For one,
Oh,
if
boy.
the hunter is carded, they will retain whatever level of spirit gauge they were at previously. If you're carded while in yellow gauge, you'll return to camp and still have said yellow level, meaning it is much more forgiving for hunters in terms of
wow.
meter management. It also still keeps the same style of refreshing red gauge every time a round slash connects and will simply go down one level whenever the gauge runs out. Next to releases like those in Generation 3, the gauge is probably at its all-time best within this entry. Special Sheath is another example of an ability that received a major improvement as the Quick Sheath armor skill significantly reduces the animation time depending on what level you use, to the point that you'll see most most of, if not all, meta sets running Quick Sheath 3 at all times. This is because the Special Sheath is now so fast with Quick Sheath level 3 that you can very easily get off EI slashes and EI Spirit Round slashes for easy meter regen or counters. And EI Spirit Round slash no longer drains you of your Spirit Gauge level if it misses. Seriously, some brain dead damage possibilities here. It's amazing.
I can see why he called it straight up brain dead, because it low-key kind of is. And for those people that like get kind of upset that like something is called brain dead, I mean, look at the mechanics, mate. I've played this like game before, right? And obviously unorthodox game. Hello, it was honestly quite a good Roblox game, so you know that shit's not getting any players. But like I basically played as Guts. Right? I played as Guts, but like the thing is with his character is that he has slightly extended basic attack reach. And people are like, "Oh, that's just brain dead. You're just using it." Like, no. Like, I like the character. I'm not using it because he's brain dead, but I can see why it's brain dead. And like, okay, work around it, bro. But yeah, that happens with games sometimes. And honestly, as long as it's like not genuinely stupidly broken, you can let it sit. That like a bunch of devs do that, and it's fine. It's not a crazy thing.
I love it. For the Silkbind attacks, the first is Soaring Kick, which allows the hunter to launch themselves upward and forward slightly. The nice thing about this move is when it connects to a monster, the hunter will be launched upward slightly to perform a multi-hit aerial attack that activates meter regen. That's not the only functionality.
Really?
Though. If the hunter
My
presses
God.
ZR while launching off of the monster, instead of the normal multi-hit attack, they will perform a Helm Breaker for high damage at the cost of losing a level of meter. This Silkbind ability is by far the most effective overall within the weapon's arsenal, but to do it costs a level of gauge to make use of. It's also the ability that requires the highest skill level for the weapon, as the only way to build spirit levels are via the spirit combo or effectively countering. This ability costs 1 wire bug. If you find yourself in a particularly sticky situation or just want to see some absolutely insane damage numbers, this next ability is for you. Serene Pose is essentially a critical juncture from Monster Hunter Generations with a few caveats. Mostly just the fact that it costs 2 wire bugs to use and will lower the spirit gauge level by 1. This means it's best to use it while in red gauge with full sharpness for optimal damage, and I'm talking unga bunga numbers. To make up for the gauge loss, the hunter can immediately follow up a counter with a spirit combo to try and quickly regain said level. Now, if you're looking for a more comfy, casual experience rather than working hard to maintain red gauge for as many Helm Breakers as possible, you may find yourself choosing the first switch skill ability, Silkbind Sakura Slash, which is another ability from Generations Ultimate. The move will launch you forward and has the ability to land 2 impacts. Each of these impacts, if connected, will perform multiple hits afterward for high Silkbind damage, and it's very easy to land consistently. To make it even more useful, the move will raise your gauge by 1 upon connecting, meaning you can easily maintain red gauge at all times with my God. The downside is not the cost, as it only spends 1 wire bug, but the amount of time it takes for the wire bug to regenerate, which is fairly long. Drawn Double Slash is the next switch skill and switches with the normal draw attack. It's 2 hits and has, from my understanding, high motion values, making it the better of the 2 to slot in almost any situation. That's my personal opinion though, so let me know if there's some reason to not use it. On top of the high damage, it also allows you to immediately enter into the second attack of your spirit combo and has a small level of super armor, I believe, so you can actually take the brunt of small attacks with it. Super useful for 0 meter cost. Finally, the best spirit combo marks its return from Generations Ultimate with the Spirit Reckoning combo, seen via Valor mode showing up as a switch skill. This is an amazing ability due to its vertical nature and the ability to rush forward to close the distance on the monster you're hunting if it looks like your attack may miss. It's also just
I can see I can see why this is good, having played a weapon with a weapon before. Actually, 2 weapons. I did try the dual blades. They were pretty fun. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, okay, let's let's do this. Let's hit the monster. But then, like, obviously, I can't let's say I miss an opportunity, and then I lose a few precious amounts of time while the monster's, like, drooling and exhausted. And then my greatsword swing just ends up missing. That's embarrassing, bro. So to have an attack that does lunge forward, Fair enough. That's all in great stuff, bro. That's amazing.
Incredibly satisfying to land. The developers call the longsword and Rise the new beginner weapon, and it's easy to see why. The abilities of the weapon combined with its damage output make it incredibly effective within any fight. However, it makes up for this with a high skill ceiling to maximize damage and offers both advanced and casual play modes via Helmbreaker versus Sakura Slash. If the weapon didn't already feel like it promoted patient, knowledgeable play, it definitely does now. As I mentioned earlier, the perception of longsword users has been a vocally negative one for a very long time.
I suppose, I'm very divided on that, because it depends, bro, it really does. It really depends though, right? Because I was saying, I would get, and I'll be so real, like, knowing myself, I would probably on the hater side. I would probably be hating, bro. Because, like, while brain dead builds, I don't know, I suppose it's bias of self. Because when I do use something that's considered brain dead, I'm using it because I wanna. And it's fun and I like using it. But then again, I mean, if longsword players hold a similar opinion, I mean, why not? Just let them be, bro. Like, I'll hate it because it's so much easier, right? Than, like, timing your GS through charge swings. But, I mean, dude, if they're just having fun, why not? That's fair enough. Hold on. Okay.
Many people seem to think of the weapon as overly simplistic, annoying to fight alongside, and a weapon for weeaboos who want to pretend to be a samurai or something.
Wow.
Realistically, the weapon has a lot of depth, and the mechanics introduced to it all promote more patient, efficient play in comparison to what we see complained about online. I think the weapon is amazing. It's my main and a personal favorite. It's sad to see people dislike the
I will say you'd have to be very locked in if you're using a long sword. That's what I gotta give it, because like you have to keep up these combos if you want to like finish a hunt fast. You have to keep up your meter. You have to use it sparingly, you know. But you can go for like unga bunga damage, which is fair enough. Fair enough, bro.
Weapon due to bad experiences with players that may not be as efficient with it as others. But that's all I really have for you today. Longsword went from a very basic high damage weapon that was highly maneuverable to an even more maneuverable, untouchable counter machine that is not to be trifled with.
Hunting horn. Ooh, this one's interesting. I don't know my opinion on it because it's such a unique weapon, but like there's no actual blunt, or I don't know, man. It's like thinking, well, if you can lift it, it's like thinking a piano can be swung as like a weapon. Like I don't know what you're hitting it with. I don't know what part you're gonna hit it on, but so like I don't know. But is it cool as a concept? A horn that you can play, which can buff your allies, as well as a horn you can fight the monsters with, like a hunting horn in terms of like an instrument, not a monster horn. Fuck yeah, that's pretty cool.
Time playing Monster Hunter, I have rarely deviated from my favorite weapon type, often opting to stick with something tried and true instead of experimenting with anything I haven't really played before. However, thanks to a large rework in Monster Hunter Rise, the Hunting Horn has been on the top of my radar. The Hunting Horn has potentially received one of the biggest gameplay shifts out of all the weapons in the series. A weapon that was considered to be the least popular to use overall seems to be exploding in popularity with only the release of the Rise demo. So consider subscribing and be sure to stick around. I'm SuperRAD, and this is the history of the Hunting Horn. Monster Hunter Dose to Freedom Unite.
Oh my god, this is hilarious. I've used this background music before. It was for like a school project, bro. This is amazing. Nice to see it happen.
It would introduce the Hunting Horn to the series. In many ways, it was very similar in design to the hammer, albeit extremely weaker. However, the hunting horn attempted to make up for this in two ways. First, the reach of the weapon was longer and attacks were faster than a typical hammer, meaning users had more
That's actually
mobility
really
and
good.
range to work with within a hunt. Second was what made the hunting horn truly unique, the recital ability. By pressing the recital button, the R button in Freedom
You gonna
Unite,
start playing
hunters could
shit.
enter
Yeah.
recital mode, which would allow them to play various sequences of notes while mostly stationary. Players could even unsheath immediately into recital mode with the right combination of buttons. While in this mode, the hunter can attack, but the majority of these attacks are centered around mobility, allowing the hunter to evade monsters while continuing to play and changing the type of note they create. Each horn will have 3 different
Amazing.
colored notes that the hunter can play. These colors can be different between each weapon, meaning the possible combos.
I didn't know you had to stay still. I thought you played the thing, you gained the buff, and that was it. Obviously, it's like, you know, when you go use a whetstone, you're gonna be away for battle for a little bit. Is it not? That's crazy.
that can be played in recital mode are also different. For example, playing the white note followed by the red note on the bone horn will provide an attack up boost to you and the party. The different
Crazy.
attacks you can perform in recital mode are what dictate which notes will be played. One unique song that is
Oh, I
available
see.
to all horns is the drift speed up ability, which is activated by performing 2 white notes in a row or 2 purple notes if you have a higher rank weapon. This is an incredibly important ability for hunting horn users as it dramatically increases their movement speed with their weapon unsheathed. These songs could even be comboed into one another. Say you activate health up, which is a red, blue, and then white recital. You can then follow up with another white note to activate drift speed, and then another red note to activate attack up. Another big aspect of song combos is simply replaying the same combination. Many songs have additional effects if played twice, or they may simply refresh the timer. By playing white into white, the user gets the drift speed buff, and by performing white into white again, they gain the minor ESP boost, allowing the hunter to
What's
not
that?
only move faster, but also bounce off of the monsters less. This isn't
Holy.
limited to the self-improvement buffs either. By repeating melodies that give you something like attack up S, you can replace it with attack up L. The weapon had multiple other subtle nuances. It contained an infinite combo ability by simply pressing triangle over and over to perform an upward
Wow.
swing, which could be angled with the analog stick. And as an impact weapon, it could knock out monsters, leaving them open for big damage.
Oh, you could angle it with a what? That's crazy. That shit's magic. Nah, that's magical, bro. Oh my god.
Honestly, out of any weapon in the series at this point, Hunting Horn shined as a truly unique addition that contained an incredible amount of depth within its moveset.
Yeah.
I also just want to point out that the speed boost makes Hunting Horn the fastest weapon in the game in terms of movement. And
Wow.
yes, that's even faster than Sword and Shield. This aspect of
I mean, to be honest, it is. I find it hard to enjoy because most of the time you're staying still playing songs. But like for those who wanna who want buffs and wanna optimize those buffs in the middle of fighting, honestly, I don't mind. Like I can see that being like fun if you like managing a bunch of stuff, you know. Sure. Sorry, a fucking yawn was coming out.
it would persist throughout the generations. You may not remember this, but many weapons
Also, yes, I am yawning, not because the video is boring. Never. I just woke up, bro. That ass. I really just did, so.
introduced in Gen 2 or earlier did not make an appearance in Monster Hunter Tri. One of the weapons omitted was Hunting Horn,
Nargacuga.
and we wouldn't see the weapon again until Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. While originally appearing in the 2nd generation, both players introduced to Monster Hunter
That's
in
a Hunting
Tri
Horn.
and veterans would basically be picking up a brand new weapon altogether, thanks to the first of
Wow.
multiple large reworks around the weapon. The biggest change to the weapon involves Recital Mode, which has been combined into the weapon's main combos and attacks, rather than forcing the hunter into a dedicated stance in order to play. Once the right combination of notes has been played, the hunter can activate the melody, which will throw them into the recital stance temporarily as they play their melody and activate the effect. This leaves the hunter temporarily vulnerable, but much
Sure.
less so than in the 2nd generation of games.
Yeah, that's
Overall,
cool.
the weapon became much more versatile in comparison to its Gen 2 counterpart, thanks to lowering the amount of time that the hunter was slowed down or stuck in place. The trade-off for this, however, was the loss of being able to combo melodies. Since Gen 2 would automatically activate a buff as you played the proper sequence of notes, you could combo into multiple buffs fairly easily. Gen 3 looked to balance this by having the hunter able to store up to 4 notes, but only activate one combination of them. Let's say you want to activate a 3-note ability, but the last note of said ability could combo into a 2-note ability, meaning you could theoretically get 2 buffs with one recital. This isn't possible, as the latest notes played will dictate which combo gets activated. Other small aspects of the weapon, like its infinite, have been
the buff stacking thing was pretty cool. Was it broken? Not really either. I mean, you're fucking stuck in place. But yeah, man, that would have been cool though. Buff stacking sounds pretty fun.
Changed slightly. Hunters could now combo through triangle to circle and repeat for a dedicated infinite. Additionally, the select button could perform a hilt stab similar to the old circle button attack, but faster and for less damage. This move would even generate a note and was mostly utilized for getting notes ready quickly ahead of time or performing a recital immediately after, which would have a different animation known as a quick recital. Now, one of the biggest and most useful.
This reminds you of like I think I played SF3 before. The like pixelated one. SF3 on like I forgot what application it was. But like while playing it I realized that I wasn't deep into the game, right? I wasn't like super good at it. I was decent at best. But I saw a lot of people use certain moves, like I think it was low medium kick, to kind of build up charge passively, and by charge I mean like the ones you use for like special moves and shit or supers.
Full additions to be introduced in this generation has to be the Encore ability. As I mentioned, pressing R after playing a proper combination of notes will activate a buff effect. If that buff effect is multi-leveled, playing it a second time will boost it to its next tier. Now the fun part is that the devs realized playing the same combo twice is absolutely ridiculous. When you have a giant...
Wait, when I was talking, was I fucking muted the whole time? What the fuck? Oh my god. Okay, I was, and we're calm, bro.
Angry monster charging toward you throughout the fight. So hunters can now opt to extend their recital into an encore. By pressing R, you begin the recital, and by pressing it again, you extend the combo and activate the same ability a second time, automatically boosting it. Something like Defense Up S can automatically go up to Defense L within the same combo. However, from what I could gather, the encore wasn't actually used that often in high-level play. Despite its apparent advantages, being stuck in an extended recital animation for too long was incredibly dangerous. Most players seem to opt for an evade to cancel the recital animation, as it would save time and allow them to reposition and attack as necessary.
Sure, yeah.
In Gen 4, many of the typical attacks launch fellow hunters.
I don't get it though, but why? Like by that point, if you're canceling a buff and not accessing the bigger buffs it could provide, why not just go for a different weapon? Unless it's buffing allies. Which by then my argument bears no fangs. Like it doesn't... Like my argument is useless by then if it does buff teammates. But like if it's for yourself, bro, I don't know. Because like large buffs would be really good. Like in fights. Especially if you have, I don't know, someone that can rack up damage really quickly. Like, sure, a GS user, but like you also have dual blades and all these other weapons that have these nice gimmicks.
For free aerial attacks. Speaking of aerial attacks, the hunting horn can perform the same aerial slam with either X, A, or the X plus A combination, and each will allow the hunter to acquire a specific note. Another large change is the double swing or flourish mechanic. Hunters that press forward and circle on their gamepad will perform a double swing move that acts as 2 attacks. However, during the middle of the flourish, hunters can input an extra move that will allow for a free note to be generated. An example of this would be the user pressing forward and circle to perform the double swing, which generates a blue note depending on the weapon, and can then press triangle mid-swing to get a free white note. This can be done for all note types, making it incredibly useful for quickly pumping out melody combinations. notes. Now,
Yeah.
Generations, as we all know, adds various styles to each weapon to make them incredibly unique depending on which one you pick up. But Hunting Horn actually received several new mechanics outside of styles to help promote a more aggressive playstyle. Originally, hunters could swing willy-nilly without actually hitting anything and they'd get notes regardless. While that's still the case, hunters are encouraged to actually attack the monster now thanks to the mechanic known as special or double notes. These special notes function similarly to your normal notes, but can only be obtained by performing an attack that actually connects against the monster. By using recitals with only special notes, you will not only play the song you have slotted in, but also play the last song used previously. Think of this as a way of getting a new set of buffs while encoring your previous song. If you haven't used a previous song...
Wait, no, this is amazing. You have an incentive, you have a reward for said incentive, and it just works out really well because you're getting, like, what I'm hearing is essentially you're gonna get more buffs, which generally, yes.
This is a great way to get both effects of self-improvement in one combo without the need to use an encore. Some of you may be wondering why they began to promote such aggressive play, and I'll actually get into why this might be the case later. Like the last video, I won't go into all of the styles. The main differences in each are the possibility of removing double notes in favor of some old school moves and changing certain combos with the weapon, but it's nothing we haven't seen before. If you're curious which option was used by most speedrunners, it seems like guild style was best. I suggest trying them out yourself to see what feels best for you. One very useful hunter art will actually let you perform special notes regardless of whether or not you hit the monster, which is useful when you need to get a big buff boost whether you're near a monster or not. Valor mode makes the weapon even more aggressive, allowing for recitals to perform incredibly flashy, high damage attacks, but some of the mechanics with Valor seem to limit the Hunting Horn's ability to actually, play music. If I were to use the Valor evade, I'd automatically sheath my weapon, which may interrupt or mess up my combination of notes I'm building. That being said, Generations Ultimate introduced a new art for Hunting Horn that makes it so your recital and encore have iframes, allowing the user to play certain songs and, if timed right, dodge attacks safely while doing so. This is something we actually see brought over into Rise, but we'll get to that shortly.
I mean, it's always nice to have, like, iframes on a Hunting Horn while you're moving, so, like, you're evading attacks while you're playing songs. Oh, come on. That's like plus 10 points on charm, bro.
Okay, I am not a Hunting Horn main, so bear with me while I...
Is this a Hunting Horn? Oh my god, this looks cool.
Attempt to explain some of the most confusing but incredibly...
Dude, what is this? Look at this thing! This is a horn? You're telling me this is a horn? Oh my god, it is. Scout flight power up, abnormal status attack increase. Dude, this looks awesome. Like, I'm sorry, like the weapon design. Oh my god.
Interesting changes World introduced with the weapon, namely the ability to cue melodies. Each time you play a valid combination of notes, they get added to your song bank, and each Hunting Horn user can store up to 3 of these at a time, with the oldest getting pushed out whenever you play a new combination. The hunter can dictate which of the songs in their bank to play by combining the recital button with their attack buttons. To play the first song, press the recital button. To play the second, instead, press circle and recital together, and finally, press recital and triangle for the third. Queuing songs also reintroduces the combo or bridging mechanic from Generation 2. By stalking one song, you can continue attacking to bridge the notes you just played into the notes of another meaning certain songs can be strung into others for efficient banking. Encore remains the same if you only have one song stocked, allowing the user to easily replay it, but the big differences lie in how Encore functions with multiple songs queued. This is probably, to me at least, one of the biggest buffs Hunting Horn has ever received. If the user has 3 songs queued and presses recital once, they will take time to play all the songs.
Wait a minute, is this whole thing, what I'm looking at as a weapon, is this a massive bell? Oh my god.
In the list as one unless interrupted, either by being attacked or evading. They can even decide to encore all of the songs at once, leading to huge, long-lasting buffs for the Hunting Horn user and their party. It's seriously insane in comparison to the older designs of the weapon. One thing to note is that the double notes from Generations do not make their return. Instead, pressing triangle and circle together will visually look like a double note, but function as you would expect a Gen 3 or early Gen 4 horn to. Like other weapons, Iceborne introduced some new moves and mechanics for the hunting horn. Echo Attack is a new move performed by pressing L2 after a traditional attack. It's a multi-hit move with high KO damage, making it incredibly useful to use when attempting to knock out a monster. On top of the high knockout, it introduces a new unique note to the horn, which can be used to generate unique combos and melodies, specifically tailored to the type of hunting horn being used. This special note can be combined with the second or third note available to the hunting horn to generate a new melody that is dependent on the type of hunting horn being used. For example, when I recorded this footage, I used the Raging Brachydios hunting horn and had access to the Dragon Echo Wave ability, which is a low KO but potentially high damage attack. Another weapon may have Impact Echo Wave, which has increased KO values, which makes it better for knocking out monsters. The second ability places a bubble on the ground for the party to utilize by walking through. For the weapon I used in this example, it was the speed plus evasion boost buff, where if I were to walk through it, I'd gain a speed boost similar to self-improvement and an evasion boost, while party members would only receive the evasion boost. Okay, if you thought the hunting horn was
honestly bit of a complex weapon to take in. Are you surprised? I used the greatsword, bro. We have like a total of maybe 5 or 3 moves. I don't know. Right? But like, honestly, it's really good because there's a lot of incentives for like, hey, use this buff. You know, store your note, bank your notes accordingly, so you can like play and continue to get good buffs. Right? Although you would need, honestly, I don't know. You would need a distraction though if you want to play notes like that. That aren't hitting the monster. But still, that's really cool. It's just a bit to take in because like there's a bunch of these notes that they're playing. But hey, fair enough.
Was already receiving a lot of reworks, get ready, because it is almost an entirely different weapon in Monster Hunter Rise, like seriously different, to the point that I'm actually saddened by the changes overall. The biggest change is how melodies activate. No longer are you focusing on 2 to 4 note combos before activating your ability. Instead, possible buffs are listed for you and simply performing the combo will activate them automatically without needing to perform a recital, saving a large amount of time when attacking the monster. Self-improvement.
That's a lot more fast-paced, but like the hunting horn was cool, man. Oh, it sucks. I mean, it's more simple this way, and my monkey brain can understand it. But like the melody thing was cool. You don't need to do this.
Movement can be activated in multiple ways, the easiest of which is by simply pressing ZR, which will perform a special attack called Performance that generates iframes during the initial part of the animation and is generally worked into your combos as it performs a decent amount of damage, is evasive, and allows you to follow it up nicely with music notes. A new combo called Magnificent Trio becomes available when the hunter has played one of each possible note. The notes don't need to stay on the melody chart for this ability to remain active, and it is a very effective, high damage, multi-hit combo that decimates any monster that it touches while also activating each of the song's abilities. A brand new mechanic is the circular gauge that charges as the hunter attacks. Once full, this allows the hunter to perform the infernal melody out of the Magnificent Trio combo or out of a Silkbind ability known as Slide Beat. It is a multi-hit move with the same animation as Echo Wave, but instead of providing a special note on the chart, it instead provides an additional damage boost to you and your party via Song of the Raging Flame. Additionally, in previous games, the draw attack of the weapon would apply a note right away. Now a hunting horn main can draw attack and immediately press one of the corresponding notes.
Dude, that was like 200 damage in 4 hits. What the fuck? Or at least 170.
Note buttons to get the note of their choosing, making the weapon much more versatile when it comes to planning out melodies. For Silkbind abilities, the first you'll have access to are Slide Beat and Earthshaker. Slide Beat is functionally a gap closer, but it also has the ability to shake off both monster attacks and roars, meaning it's a great way to keep uptime whether the monster is attacking you or moving away from you. As I mentioned, the hunter can combo a recital out of it to apply self-improvement, and if their gauge is full, also combo out Infernal Melody. Earthshaker should be used on an enemy's weak zone as it will plunge the hunting horn into the monster for high damage. If it connects, the hunter attaches a Silkbind cord to the monster, allowing for additional shockwave damage to be generated. Earthshaker can be swapped out for Bead of Resonance, which is designed to allow players to really utilize that corner horner playstyle I know you love so much. It will place a bead on the ground, and while active, all of the hunting horn effects will also be active within the radius of the bead.
Oh, that's
cool. Too far away from their teammates, the teammates can still gain buffs by standing close to said bead. For switch skills, skills, the hunting horn can swap out its overhead smash for melodic slap, which performs less pure damage in comparison to the smash but offers more stun damage, allowing for easier KOs,
Amazing.
I believe. But overall, smash is simply more effective due to the high damage output and the fact that you'll be landing these KOs anyway. It removes the iframe ability and is used to manually activate notes to make the hunting horn feel kind of similar to its old school counterpart, but not really. I really don't know why you would use this ability over the typical performance, as it seems overall worse in a utility sense.
I mean, it seems fun if you're like if you really want that like aggressive musician play style, right? Fair, you're good. All right, fine. But like if you like the old gen stuff, bro, this is unfortunate. Because if you used a certain thing, right, and you love the hunting horn, I can see why a different iteration of it, something that's so different, could upset someone. Which is yeah, fair enough. I'd get upset too. The fuck.
But it does seem to have a higher vertical reach. All in all, the Hunting Horn and Rise is almost a completely new weapon in comparison to World and Iceborne, which is very different in comparison to Gen 3 and Gen 4, which were completely different in comparison to Generation 2. Honestly, the Hunting Horn has had some of the biggest facelifts throughout the entirety of the series.
Yeah, it's major stuff.
Something I learned really quickly is that the way you classify a weapon can be a sensitive topic for dedicated hunters. Especially hunting horn mains.
Really?
Especially hunting horn mains. Hunting horn mains are very outspoken and dedicated. While I won't discuss whether or not the weapon is considered support or not, although I do have my own opinions on it, it's clear there is an issue with some of the player base misunderstanding the weapon due to the classification. A hilarious term I've heard used is corner horners, describing hunting horn mains that would rather keep their distance and buff the party rather than getting directly into the fray. I think a lot of the facelift.
And what about it? I don't get it. Okay, look at this. If you want a hyper efficient hunting squad and you have a hunting horn player within the squad, will the party be more effective? It depends. If the players you have there actually have like really high damage output, let's say like I don't know, be it charge blade user, switch axis, or dual blade or long blade users, whatever might have you, bro. If they're outputting a high damage, even like someone who's ranged and just getting attack buffs from you, if they're outputting enough damage, like way enough damage to topple the monster, why not like give it an accelerant and like give him even more of a damage boost? And like sure, you can quote unquote get in the fray of things or whatever the fuck to kind of dish out damage as well. But like with the amount of damage you're increasing with them, like I'm just theorizing, right? If you get the idea. You also have other buffs. You could literally be fighting, well, a sort of monster that's like like too fast for it. Let's say you have two greatsword users or whatever the fuck. I don't know if that's possible, but hey, like if you have two of them, bro, they're gonna be sort of a slow poke. I'm not gonna lie, unless they have their weapon sheathed, which is usually what I do, right? I'm just saying this from my perspective. They're gonna need the buffs if you're fighting a nimble ass monster. I had so much trouble, bro, with a fucking Toby Kadachi because of how nimble it is. I cannot get a good swing in, right? And it was so hard to reposition. So if you have a hunting horn main, either they make the damage worthwhile, making them a somewhat. If you're just playing songs for your team, you're a support. No arguments needed. No debates needed. If you're playing Hunting Horn and dishing out damage while also offering buffs for yourself and your teammates, you are a hybrid support. End the discussion. Does that clear it up pretty well? I hope it does. Right? I don't know.
Throughout the series all had the same.
Is the debate on this really that big? It's quite a crazy topic.
goal in mind. Make the weapon more versatile and promote the player engaging with the monster. We saw this in
Sure.
Gen 3 when they removed the dedicated recital stance and introduced Encore. We saw this in Generations with the ability to produce double notes. We saw this in World with song stacking and recital combos producing high damage. And we have really seen this in Rise, with the hunting horn being one of the highest performing weapons in the demo. Support
Yeah.
or not, the hunting horn is an incredibly versatile weapon and very
I don't get it. Are they sensitive about being called a quote-unquote support because they think there's some sort of pussy for sitting back and buffing the team? Okay, like if you had that logic, if you applied it to or like bow gun players, whatever the fuck the range weapons you have in MHR, or gunlance players. Okay, gunlance they actually do get close. Never mind. If you're like applying this to like the bow, I don't know, the fucking range weapons. You get what I'm saying? Are they also pussy for sitting back and just dishing out damage? Not really. Not really. Added the fact that you also have to craft the fucking ammos, which I can see probably could be very annoying. But like in terms of the fight, bro, that's their purpose. They need to sit back. They need the distance. They need the range. What is the problem? I don't get it. I don't get it.
useful in taking down
really don't.
any monster, whether solo or in a party. I do feel like Rise may be oversimplifying the weapon slightly, removing
Sure.
mechanics like Encore
I
and
agree.
making melodies incredibly easy to cast. To me, it looked like the main appeal of the weapon was its depth, and I think some of that
Yeah.
has been lost here. However, like I mentioned previously, the weapon was apparently one of the least popular in the franchise, so
Fair.
I expect we'll see that
You had
change
to
in
up it up a
Rise.
little bit.
Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today in regards to the hunting horn.
Wait. Oh my god, this is my favorite topic. How deep are we in it though? We're only 30 minutes on it. Okay. Okay.
If there is any weapon
Let
that
him
could
cook.
be considered the most iconic within the Monster Hunter
Yes! Yes! Fucking love the great swords. Oh my god. Kid me was fiending over that, bro. My god, heavy weapon. Because like obviously, and here's my reasoning for it, right? You don't see a lot of this stuff. Amazing weight transfer, great animation. You're really seeing the transference of weight in terms of well, as I said, animation, and you don't get that a lot with like sure you have some silly ass animations like that I've seen, like the side blow, in where you're waving this thing around and slapping something with it as if it's like only 15 pounds. That's already heavy for a sword, let alone a great sword of like IRL standards. But like, bro, you're slapping them with this fucking thick ass slab of like bone or metal. But here's the thing, right? Um, you don't see a lot of these like swords. These like thick ass sword designs that really emphasize both like power and like, you know, weight, and then the emphasis of it is also shown in the animation. But you don't see a lot of these swords, man. That's my main thing. You've seen, like, that's why I've seen Berserk. The huge giant sword was awesome. That's why I know, I don't know Final Fantasy, but I know Cloud Strafe. That, or at least, is that his name? Cloud Strafe, the guy with the big fucking Cloud Buster sword, whatever the fuck it was. That's why I know these dudes, bro. Great swords were fucking awesome.
series, I'd have
Well,
to
they
say it
still
was
are.
probably the Greatsword. Having existed since the very first iteration of the series, the weapon has managed to continually evolve and progress in design to what we can now see in Monster Hunter Rise. Today, we're going to take a look at the start of the Greatsword, and thanks to that, revisiting the start of Monster Hunter as a whole. We'll go through
Great.
each generation of the series and look at the changes and design
What the fuck is
decisions
that
made each
Greatsword?
time. I think you'll be surprised at how drastically the weapon evolved over the course of
Really?
almost 20 years. I'm
Talk
SuperRAD,
to me
and
nice.
this is the history of the Greatsword.
Also on Rise, my god, that just looks like a big butchery knife.
Monster Hunter on the PS2 would introduce players to the Greatsword, a towering beast of a weapon that packed quite the punch, but really showed off the contrast between Monster Hunter and other action games of its time. A slow, methodical weapon that packed incredibly high damage, helping reward the player for utilizing a safe and methodical playstyle. The main aspects of the weapon included
No, I would. Hey. That I gotta have to disagree with. Like, I'm not I'm not for one for calling it safe. Is it safe, or like you're playing safe and playing with distance? Sure. And I'm not like, oh, don't say that. We're not pussies. Like, you, that might be the reaction you thought I got, but no. The main thing I want to say that instead of safe, I'd call it committal. Because like, if you're swinging this big ass weapon, bro, you're going to commit to it, because that's the entire play style of this thing. You're committing to these swings when you know you can hit them, right? And then even then, if you're unsure if you can hit it, you still try to swing sometimes, and you're committing to that like belief. You're committing. You're saying I can probably hit the fuck out of this monster, right? Because the fucking rewards for swinging that hard, and that's and swinging around this heavy ass weapon is really good. The incentives for it are basic, and they're pretty fucking good. You're gonna commit to something, we're gonna give you a lot of damage. Like, see, fair enough. Like, if he's saying safe as in like you go distance and pace yourself a lot, sure. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty safe gameplay.
Its large, sweeping attacks either vertically or horizontally, and its ability to block. It's an incredibly slow weapon, but when planned appropriately, can unleash a large amount of damage through timed hits and even an infinite. For example, pressing left on the right analog stick will perform a horizontal slash, which can then be followed up with right on the analog stick to perform an upswing, or up on the analog stick to perform a vertical slash. These attacks can all be chained together, but the hunter can't use the same attack twice in a row. The downside to the infinite is how slow it is, meaning hunters are more likely to roll and cancel out of their combos to evade being attacked rather than persistently applying damage. Upswing is also particularly annoying in this gen, as it can send any fellow hunter near you flying. This would actually be something that continues on in later generations.
That's insane.
The main greatsword attacks can be mixed and matched for a variety of combos that fit various situations, giving the weapon a larger amount of depth than you may expect. The block mechanic isn't unique to the greatsword, but can be utilized to dodge multitudes of attacks without having to reposition or sheath a hunter's weapon.
Yeah, I've used it. I'm pretty sure for anyone who's seen my like what is it? Beginner play Monster Hunter World, you sleep. For anyone who's seen that video, and that like Toby, was it like the Toby Kadachi fight? I think it was. I don't know, I forgot. Like, in that fight, I did block, right? I was blocking pretty fucking well. Although at the absolute abhorrent cost of sharpness on my like bone greatsword. Like, sure, by that I gotta whetstone up again. But I didn't have to reposition. I didn't have, because there are certain points, you gotta know this, bro. At a certain point, it's too late to dodge, and even if you do, you're gonna get hit. So like blocking, like, and sacrificing a bit of sharpness to not take a big hit is pretty fair, right? I'd say that's fair.
It consumes stamina and sharpness, which is dependent on the strength of the attack the sword is blocking, but can even block special attacks like the Gypsaros Flash or Stop Both Fangos that are charging at you endlessly until the remainder of your sanity has been depleted. While the weapon is a true powerhouse, it actually pales in overall DPS in comparison to something like the Lance, which is one of the weapons that dominated that generation. Additionally, if you—
What is with the Lance? I do see a lot of people use it even in like the older titles, and then they're demonstrating how they're playing and stuff like that. I don't understand that. Is it good? Somebody explain, bro.
You remember from my longsword video, the weapon sported many models that, while looking like longswords, functioned like greatswords.
Yep.
Some of these models would later be reworked into the longsword class in the next generation. The weapon also has generally lower sharpness in comparison to other weapon types, regardless of what tree you decide to forge or upgrade through. A couple final nuances of the weapon include how damage is—
I mean, you're hitting so hard with this thing. I would make it more akin to an axe than a sword.
Calculated and a small kick attack. The key area of the weapon that provides the most damage is the center of the blade, with the base and the tip lessening the amount of damage significantly, meaning hunters had to be very aware of their positioning when attacking any monster.
Really?
The kick
I
attack
didn't know.
could be done with the weapon sheath, but was effectively useless at this point in the series. However, it would gain slightly more utility in the 3rd generation. Now you may be asking me at this point,
Is a kick?
Daddy SuperRAD, why aren't you talking about the charge mechanic?
What?
You know, the most iconic aspect of the weapon that defines it throughout each generation. Well, believe it or not, random viewer that I just made up, but the charge
Okay.
mechanic didn't actually exist in the 1st generation and wouldn't exist
Oh,
until
wow,
Monster
okay.
Hunter DOS in Generation 2.
I didn't know. There you go.
So what are the biggest changes in Generation 2? Well, the only truly major change would be the charge mechanic, which takes a deceptively simple looking weapon like the Greatsword and applies even more depth and versatility to its
Yep.
moveset. The charge mechanic is directly attached to the vertical swing attack, which now comes in 4 attack states. Starting with uncharged, this attack has the fastest buildup, but lowest damage or motion value. Then there's charge level 1, which requires you to hold the weapon in position for 1 tier of charge. Hunters would see their character begin to glow slightly and could release
Yep.
the attack button in order to
Boom.
launch their weapon
Boom.
attack with a slightly
Boom.
higher motion value. Charge levels 2 and 3 would require the hunter to stay in position for longer, and their character would begin to glow brighter through each tier, with each providing higher motion values overall.
Yep.
If the hunter holds the charge all the way to level 3, it releases automatically. This mechanic helped build on the original concept of the Greatsword. If you thought it promoted slow and methodical play before, and
There it
really
is.
made you commit to each attack, that was even more the case now.
Yeah.
Having to stand in place for so long to get the most out of your weapon really puts the pressure on the hunter to make sure that they aren't simply
I get it now. Okay, if he was talking about the Greatsword being safe, and it's from the past, like, iteration that we just talked about, yeah. If you didn't need to charge, yes, okay.
opening themselves up to get Bullfangoed. Many monsters would have plenty of openings in which a level 3 charge was possible, but it required a large amount of knowledge on the hunter's end to perform successfully. The weapon attacks were switched to buttons instead of the right analog stick in this generation. Now vertical slash was mapped to triangle, horizontal to circle, and upswing to triangle and circle together. Additionally, mechanics like blocking or charge attack could be performed out of weapon sheath. One of the most effective aspects, the bread and butter if you will, is utilizing draw attacks. The high motion value of draw attacks with the Greatsword makes it perfect for utilizing hit and run tactics, where hunters would run in for a draw attack, evade away, sheathe, and repeat. This is especially useful when armor skills buffing these types of attacks are applied.
Holy shit, is it exploding on hit? My god.
Monster Hunter's 3rd generation introduced a new move that could be comboed out of the underutilized kick animation from previous generations. Now hunters could slap monsters with their sword for a slight
Side
amount
blow,
of impact
yeah.
and damage. A new form of the charge slash called the strong charge could even be comboed further out of the sword slap by pressing a direction in the triangle button at the same
Really?
time. While this charged attack is slightly more powerful than the traditional charge attack, it can't be comboed out of, lowering its versatility. A major change
I
made
see.
to the charge mechanic was how the level 3 charge was activated. While the hunter could still hold the charge until it released on its own, this would
Sure.
only produce the motion value of a level 2 charge. To get the proper level 3 charge to activate, the player would have to release their attack slightly after the glow from their level 2 charge began to disappear or lessen in visibility. The hunter would know they were successful as the level 3 charge has a more prominent energy burst around the hunter in comparison to an
I see.
overcharge. This requirement of timing your level 3 release also applied to a strong charge at this time, but overcharging the strong charge would be removed altogether in Portable 3rd onward. Other than that,
Yeah.
Greatsword wouldn't see many major changes in this generation, and would stay relatively similar to its Gen 2 counterpart until moving on to Monster Hunter 4 and Cross in Generation 4. Monster Hunter 4's main new addition next to
Yeah, honestly, it has actually evolved over time. Oh my god, I didn't even know that the charge thing wasn't a thing on like the first game. Wow, man.
aerial moves is the strong side slash attack. After performing a strong charge, the
Wait.
player can press X to till
No
moving on
way.
to Monster Hunter 4 and Cross in Generation
Well,
4.
I didn't mean to put it back that farther, but
Monster Hunter 4's main new addition next to aerial moves is the strong side slash attack. After performing a strong
That one I really liked as well, especially because of the animation. You almost kind of fly with this fucking thing and kind of
Strong
have to rebalance
charge, the
yourself.
player can press X to perform the strong side slash finisher, functioning as a powerful horizontal slash. The attack damage is dependent on the level of the strong charge, so it'll be more powerful during charge level 3. Due to its especially high damage, the attack comes with the major downside of not being able to cancel out of the attack by evading, and the ending animation is fairly long.
Yeah.
So hunters would want to make sure that they have a fairly long opening to use the ability. Moves like the horizontal slash now allowed for more evasive options starting in this generation. Players also gain the ability to enter the strong charge stance through multiple means. Hunters can perform a side slap out of an evade, allowing them to quickly enter into a strong charge without having to perform the initial charge attack. Alternatively, performing the horizontal slash with the A button followed by another A and a direction will also begin the strong charge, though no one really seems to use this since horizontal slash covers so much ground and trips easily. I thought that was a longsword thing. With aerial attacks, there's a small nuance attached to the aerial slam that the greatsword can perform, namely being able to perform a level 2 strong side slash by pressing X immediately after performing your jump attack. It's a great way to get in some extra damage after an aerial attack if the hunter doesn't manage to mount the monster. But remember, the animation is very long.
Yeah.
Moving on to generations, something I noticed first was...
The recovery of it is quite horrendous, but... you decided to swing this thing.
is that small attacks seem to not knock me over while using my charge attacks, implying there's some form of super armor on the charge. But I'm not sure if this was introduced specifically within this entry. As with all weapons, the greatsword had access to multiple hunting styles, the most effective of which seemed to be Guild, Adept, and Valor, with Valor being incredibly powerful. However, I have also been informed that Striker was the second best style, so take that as you will. The different styles would not only unlock new movement or attack options, but also limit which abilities could be used. For example, Striker style doesn't allow the hunter to strong charge. Valor style specifically opened up a few cool options for the weapon. Once in the Valor state, hunters have the ability to perform very efficient charge maneuvers. For example, the draw charge is much faster now thanks to a built-in focus ability that stacks with the focus armor skill. It can't be overcharged, and the hunter can perform a side slash out of it. However, unsheathed Valor level 3 charge slashes do not have built-in focus. Say that 3 times fast. The player can now launch themselves forward with the A button while charging this way, but the attack afterward would be slightly weaker in comparison to your typical idle charge. Greatsword specific arts were also introduced. Moves like Lion's Maw allowed the hunter to perform a powerful swinging attack before sheathing and powering up the next attack that they performed. Perfect for draw charging or planning for any big hit. Brimstone Slash is another example that performs an even more powerful charging attack that will automatically unleash if the hunter is interrupted, effectively making it a counter. Wait a second, they stole that from the longsword.
Okay, come on. Yeah, but like you need to be attacked. That's not really... I can't say it. I can't... no, man. You can't really classify it as a counter if you're getting hit. And actually, like, if you're actually taking the damage, right? I would classify it as a sort of retaliation attack. Right? But, like, with the longsword, what I was told was that, oh, you need to time it perfectly. So you get the iframes and you counter the monster trying to attack you. Right? Am I right? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Hey, I'm just here to learn. I don't know most of this stuff, bro. Like, even though I have played Worlds, it's one iteration of the game.
The trend of these videos so far is that we usually see some large changes throughout each generation, with World completely opening up the possibilities of each weapon.
Is that a greatsword? My god, that is insane looking. And I know this is from World, so it kind of spoils me a little bit, but it's one greatsword, I don't mind.
Greatsword, which gained a large amount of functionality that we haven't seen prior. One minor but useful change is how you can slightly reposition the upper body of your hunter while charging.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
To see the slight angle for where the hit was going to finally land. Angling was introduced with the charge mechanic, but being able to properly see it beforehand was specific to Generation 5. No longer does pressing the circle simply perform a wide slash. Well, it does, but this move can be comboed consecutively. The user can press circle to perform the wide slash, and then circle again for a new move or mechanic known as a tackle. We'll get into tackling in a moment, but pressing the circle button...
Oh, man. Whew. Tackling feels brilliant. My dopamine receptors, bro.
One more time performs a jumping wide slash that can move the hunter forward for better repositioning.
Yep.
The tackle move is a new mechanic introduced in Generation 5 and allows the hunter to either combo into it or cancel into it depending on the situation. It effectively works like a super or hyper armored guard that moves the player forward slightly and prevents them from being flinched or knocked.
You know the insane thing? I literally have used tackle to like ignore monster roars. Isn't that all fucking crazy?
Back. The downside of using a move like this is that the hunter will still take damage, although mitigated.
I suppose,
but the
yeah.
upside is that it helps keep the aggression on the monster
Yeah.
and lowers the overall amount of downtime in between attacking. When performing a charge attack, hunters can press circle while still holding triangle to perform the tackle. This will not cancel the charge and will allow the hunter to continue where they left off. Tackle can also be activated through a guard or after an evade, so there's many options for how you plan on using it. Another nuance to the tackle is that the iframes differ depending on what charge level you cancel out of. By canceling
Really?
out of a charge level 3 into a tackle, you'll gain a more effective animation.
Oh, wow,
Additionally,
okay.
the damage inflicted by the jumping wide slash seems to be determined based on the level of charge you cancel out of. This can even be weaved into a sword slap to continue into a strong charge combo. Another big change is having the ability to immediately shift into a strong charge from an overhead slash without requiring the sword slap. By performing an overhead slash followed by any direction on the analog stick and triangle, hunters would automatically start the animation for a strong charge. In fact, players can actually
Wow.
immediately enter the strong charge through tackles.
Wait, you can do like strong ass slaps? Like side blows? What the fuck?
As well, meaning many aspects of the weapon that were locked behind one or two
That I didn't know. Oh my god.
combos now have a large amount of branches for accessing them. The strong side
Awesome.
slash has been mapped
Holy
to the circle
damage.
button now rather than needing to press triangle again, and other combo options out of the strong charge like upward slash or another sword slap get boosted when performed. However, those moves pale in comparison to the new true charge slash attack. By pressing a direction and triangle after a strong charge, the hunter can begin charging an even more powerful attack. When released, it actually comes out as two separate collisions, with the first being
Okay.
weaker and the next incredibly strong. Iceborne continues with the additions by adding more worth to making sure you get both hits in when doing the true charge slash. Specifically, if you land the first hit, the second cartwheel attack becomes powered up for extra damage.
Oh my
The second
god.
big addition is how the greatsword can utilize its slinger combos. Like all weapons, the greatsword can cancel part of its combos by performing a slinger burst. Doing so allows the hunter
does that
to
mean?
immediately shift into the true charge slash right away.
I'm
Meaning it becomes
sorry,
incredibly
you can-
easy to simply
what?
spam true charge slashes. Greatsword can utilize
I'm sorry, you can do that? Is that why it says aim slinger? When
its slinger combos.
hold on,
Like all
hold on,
weapons,
hold
the
on.
greatsword can cancel part of its combos by performing a slinger burst. Doing so allows the hunter
slinger burst, motherfucker, what?
to immediately shift into the true charge slash right away, meaning it became incredibly easy to simply spam true charge slashes throughout
That's
the fight
insane.
without needing to rely on a long-winded combo to do so. Finally,
my
moving on
God.
to Rise, we can once again
That I didn't even know you could do. I think okay. No, that okay. I knew you could do it from like a certain comment, but like it confused me so much on what the fuck a slinger burst is that I just gave up on it. I was like, whatever that means. And it wasn't on one of my videos, of course. I saw it on some fucking other else, but yeah.
look at the demo to see what new abilities and changes have been bestowed on the iconic Monster Hunter weapon. A new aerial attack can be performed by hunters when they plunge down with their greatsword for a multi-hit attack that leads to mounting damage. This plunge can also be comboed into charge attacks, but the big change here is that these attacks will start in their second level of charge, making getting to level 3 much faster. Players can even plunge into the strong side slash from previous generations right away and then combo into a true charge slash, giving greatsword users a new way to quickly enter the stance considering they lost the ability to use the slinger from Iceborne. While the
Wow.
tackle mechanic
Okay.
remains relatively unchanged, the jumping wide slash now has a new mechanic. Rather than dealing more damage based on the charge level you cancel out of when performing the tackle, the jumping wide slash will instead gain multi-hit properties at charge level 3.
Whoa.
Aside from the plunging mechanic and how jumping wide slash works, there aren't many new changes to the greatsword overall. If you've played World and Iceborne, you're probably going to feel right at home with this weapon.
Honestly, it's nothing too crazy in terms of changes. It's more of additions, right? Not a lot of changes. I mean, I suppose you could say an addition is a change. Okay, fair enough. But like, it's really more like players slowly more and more being able to access something over time. You can charge this, and you know what? Let's put your charge into other things. Side blow, side slash, jumping side slash, and a bunch of this shit. I'm like, I don't even know this shit existed, bro. What the fuck?
Where the other major changes lie are in the Silkbind attacks, and as I mentioned in my previous
Greatsword actually goes deep. What the fuck, bro?
videos, we don't have access to all of them within the demo. Let's take a look
Sure.
at what is currently available. The first Silkbind maneuver, Hunting Edge, seems effectively useless to me. It launches the hunter into the air and similarly to the longsword gives them options on how to land, either by performing a plunging attack or a generic slash. It's good for mounting damage, but with how easily the hunter can enter the air, I don't see it being used fairly often. Seriously, it may be my lack of experience as a greatsword user, but the move seemed positively lackluster and difficult to land. The next maneuver is Power Sheath, which launches the hunter forward slightly and sheathes their weapon. The move has iframes, making it good for
Okay,
advancing
great.
or retreating from a monster without getting hit. Performing this maneuver applied a damage buff to the hunter's weapon for a short period of time. It's similar to the Hunting Art Lion's Maw seen in Generation Ultimate, but instead of being applied to only the first attack, the Rise version could potentially get multiple buffed hits out of it. For switch skills, the
Wow.
third Silkbind ability is known as Adamant Charge Slash, which swaps out with Hunting Edge and allows the hunter to dash ahead with a gap closer before releasing a Charge Slash. During
Huh.
the gap closer, the hunter seems to have super armor, meaning it's a great way to keep damage up
Oh,
time and
wow,
withstand
okay.
things like monster attacks and I assume monster roars, though I'm not entirely sure. If there's footage of me withstanding one in this video, like while I'm editing this while you're watching it, then you know I found it out. Tackle will get swapped out with the new guard tackle mechanic, which is slower than your traditional tackle but can take the brunt of stronger attacks. While your timing may need to
Oh,
be reworked
shit.
to use this ability, it seems overly more effective than the traditional mechanic. Finally, True
Yeah?
Charge Slash can be swapped out for Rage Slash, a switch skill that is weaker than TCS but can make up for it in its counter mechanic, absorbing the brunt of an attack and turning that into additional damage for the hunter. While
Oh,
that's nice,
wow.
the fact of the matter seems to be that TCS is just more consistent overall when it comes to getting those big damage numbers, and this is
Sure.
especially true in multiplayer. While Rise doesn't seem to have added too much to the Greatsword, it does seem to fine-tune the weapon slightly and make it more useful in the air, considering Monster Hunter Rise has a larger focus on verticality.
I mean, I don't know. It got a little more. I did observe this. Is this Rise? Yeah, Monster Hunter Rise seems to like complicate things a little bit. Is it to my liking? It's okay. I mean, I'm sure it might feel good, but like so far, Worlds is just. It's come on. Oh my god.
The Greatsword started as a rather simplistic weapon from a first glance
Yeah,
perspective,
for
but
sure.
it really did have a fair amount of depth to it. I think a lot of people early on wanted to get into the series after seeing a hunter carrying a giant sword and fighting dragons.
Yes.
I know as a child it reminded me of Final Fantasy VII, and needless to say, I was a little disappointed at first with how slow and methodical the game was in comparison to my
alright.
expectations. Despite
I'm hating on him. I'm kidding. I mean, I know he was a kid. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But like, dude, Kid Me saw it as like, wow, fuck yeah, these big meaty hits, bro. Fucking chunky ass hits. It was awesome, man.
that, the weapon was truly much more maneuverable and versatile than it seemed, and the charge mechanic ended up being an addition that completely
Well, then again, I don't know if I was actually in Kid. Maybe in my early adolescence. I forgot, bro.
defined it moving into later generations. I was honestly shocked at how much World managed to squeeze in for the Greatsword users in comparison to every
Yeah.
other generation. It truly blew up in the amount of options and branches hunters had at their disposal. I often think of the Greatsword as the face of Monster Hunter, and I think it managed to hold that role by being an incredibly gratifying weapon to use with an
Yes.
absolutely iconic design. Anyway, that's all I have for you today in regards to the Greatsword.
All good. Switch axe. Oh, I want to learn about this. I don't want to learn the weapon, but about it, yes.
Okay, I can't wait
Oh, we're switching to real life mode. Oh my god,
to start
my goodness, look at his hair.
filming the footage I need for the Switch axe. Should be easy peasy.
His hair is actually really good, bro. Um, what is? Oh, whatever.
Easy, no issues. No issues whatsoever, super simple.
A few moments
Okay.
later.
Is bro? What the fuck is happening? Is bro good?
A-part tip redact. What? A-part tip redact. Scavern. What are you talking? Raverdent Scavern. Kashmirga.
What? Oh, you can't even. Oh my god, you can't. You have to unlock it in some form. Let me read this out for you guys. Well, not for you guys. I suppose for myself. Most of you guys are veterans. To unlock the Switch Axe, after finishing the urgent quest, the Shakalaka companion named Cha-Cha is unlocked. Oh my god, that is a mouthful. Talk to the Argosy captain the next time he appears, and he will show the blacksmith how to make the Switch Axe. How to make Switch Axes. Oh wow. Okay. Sure. Well, this doesn't sound too bad. No. What is happening to bro?
So when it comes to Monster Hunter, I feel like a lot of you know my
What the
style and
fuck?
preferences by now. Mainly that I've been sticking to one
Really?
weapon throughout the entirety of the series with
Sure.
little to no wiggle room. But when choosing the weapon I'd use throughout the entirety of the series, it's not like Longsword was the only weapon I thought about. No,
Really?
in fact, Try introduced one weapon that was so unique, so different in comparison
Yeah,
to everything else available, that I had to see if it was right for me. Spoiler alert, it wasn't, but it did leave
sure.
a lasting impression. I'm talking, of course, about the Switch Axe.
See, this left an impression on me as well, along with the insect glaive when I first because at one point, right, I tried reacting to like the more modern iteration of Monster Hunter Wilds' like weapons. I think it was Wilds, right? Or was it? Wait, no, it was definitely Wilds. There was like the fucking sand motherfuckers that are like worms. Anyway, unfortunately, video file was not really corrupted. The fucking audio of the video the entire time wasn't recorded. So you just have me going, "Oh my god! Oh my god! What the fuck?" Like with like no audio going on. Like what is bro reacting to, right? And it was unfortunate, but like in the first time I saw these things as like I don't know. It was like years back, bro. I think when the fuck was it? I don't know, man, but like I saw a bunch of demonstrations of the weapons, right? And I saw the insect glaive, I saw the switch axe. Um I saw a bunch of this shit, bro, and it obviously left a lasting impression on me. I was a kid who liked weapons. Hell, I even made like cardboard weapons, bro. And no, seriously, not like those like flimsy ones. I would reinforce them so much they'd take like 50 glue sticks. I know, I was an insane kid, bro. I was making these reinforced gauntlets and shit. There was some crazy shit. But, with that aside, these weapons left a lasting impression on me because usually I have a few notions of weapons in my head. You got a sword, whatever, axe, or you got a little shield in there as well. Maybe more unconventional weapons like a hoe or a scythe or whatever else. Maybe the shovel. We've seen. I mean, I'm sure some of you have seen Shovel Knight, but like a switch axe. A charge blade? I'm sorry. Come on. Tell me that's not crazy. I have not seen that any fucking where, bro.
Potentially one of the first weapons to really diversify and accentuate the design of weapons in Monster Hunter as
Yeah.
a series. A weapon with the ability to not only act as a heavy-hitting axe, but transform into a giant sword exploding with energy. It just had this flamboyant
fucking
flair
cool,
about
bro.
it, something so eccentric that was incredibly new to the series at the time. It's no wonder that I was drawn to it at
What
this
the
point, and we're going to take today to look at all of its features and developments from Monster Hunter Tri all the way to Rise. In the meantime, I'm SuperRAD, and this is the history of the Switch Axe. The switch axe would be
Oh, we start off
introduced
and
in Monster
generate.
Hunter with the
Wow.
release of Try on August
Okay,
1st, 2009.
we start off on Try.
It was truly unique in both visual design and the mechanics it introduced to the series. As I mentioned previously, the weapon exists within two forms. To start, we'll take a look at the axe form, which is a heavy-hitting and long-reaching weapon perfect for attacking flying enemies that hover above you. This state
Great.
of the weapon is what you would generally use within a hunt, and
The
despite its
axe?
size, it's fairly mobile
Okay.
with decent damage output. The axe's moveset
Really
consists
cool.
mostly of lunges and chops, but has the ability to perform a swinging pseudo-infinite
Oh,
that is
let
limited
me
by
see
the
that
player's
again.
lunges and fairly mobile with decent damage
Chop,
output. The axe's
chop,
moveset
chop,
consists mostly of
chop,
lunges and chops,
chop.
but
Oh,
has
that's
the
really
ability
cool.
to perform a swinging
I like it.
pseudo-infinite that is limited by the player's stamina. From what I could tell during my research, the damage output of this infinite is high, but isn't worth the cost of the stamina at this point in the
Oh,
series.
wow.
This could be dependent on what stat.
Oh my god, it's literally a continuous attack that you just have to pay for it in stamina, but I mean, okay, look. You see this again, a heavy ass thing side to side. Yeah, yeah, that would be difficult on your fucking stamina, so sure.
Stats and elements were available to the weapon while in this mode. Additionally, items like Mega Dash Juice make the ability much more worthwhile. It's also an incredibly dangerous combo as it's difficult to stop and get out of, meaning if you start it, you'll take a large stamina loss regardless and probably get hit. Now, sword mode is the really unique part about this weapon. The
Holy.
hunter has the ability to switch the mode of their weapon on the fly whenever they want to weave the change of modes in through their combos. Once in sword mode, the hunter will gain access to the ability of their weapon's file, an ability that is built into the weapon and dependent on the type of switch axe you're using. There's a meter under the sharpness icon similar to that
No way! So the files are for. So you don't have. Well, usually you do not have any innate elements in the weapon. I think if a weapon has an innate element, let's say like you built it out of what the fuck was that again? Let's say, okay, fine, let's take a simpler one. Let's say you build it out of like Anjanath body parts. So would you have flame, or would it just combine with an element of your file? Or is it not, is it non-existent at all? I don't know. I'm talking about worlds, by the way. But like, I didn't know that's what files were for. I thought they were like, I don't know, dipping your arrow in or something. What the fuck? Play the video, bro. Oh my god.
of the spirit gauge that fills over time
Okay.
while in axe mode, and the use of the sword is dependent on it. If the gauge runs out, the hunter will
That's really
automatically
cool.
switch back to axe mode and be forced to perform a reload animation that will allow the gauge to start recharging. So what makes the sword mode advantageous? It's two things that both center around the use of files. To start, each file that may be attached to the weapon has a special effect that dictates how sword mode will interact with the monster. Power
Wow.
file boosts the raw damage of sword mode, elemental file will
Holy.
boost the weapon's elemental attacks, dragon file bestows dragon element on the weapon, and a paralysis file can inflict the paralysis ailment. The second big advantage is
Nah, that's really fucking cool. Oh my god.
the elemental burst or discharge effect. Players can combo into a special attack out of an elemental thrust attack that allows them to charge the energy remaining in their gauge into a high damage attack that is not only incredibly powerful, but still benefits from the effects of the file. However, this
Amazing.
will automatically drain the gauge and revert the weapon back to axe form.
Yep.
The nice thing about this burst is that it doesn't seem to rely on how much of the gauge is left to determine damage, meaning it's beneficial to get the most out of your sword
the
mode
end
with
of-
your normal combos and then finish off near
Okay.
the end of the gauge with an elemental discharge. The
Well, that's amazing. It reminds me of like God of War, like, and how people used Kratos' rage. They would like use the more light, crazy attacks, like super fast paced, angry ass Kratos attacks, in the initial phase of like starting the guy's Spartan rage. But like in the end, you'd either down slam or like use a big ass rock and throw it at the opponent, which is honestly fair. it doesn't cost. Like, it costs more if you're using it in the middle of the meter being like full.
Discharge mode is a charging attack that needs to be built up by having the hunter mash the attack button, but it can be cancelled out of in dangerous situations or even fired off early at reduced damage. Finally, while in sword mode, the hunter gains an inherent mind's eye ability, meaning that the weapon will never bounce off of the monster regardless of sharpness. I should also point out that the gauge only depletes when attacking and that the hunter can draw into sword mode with the right button combination. On top of the two forms, the weapon also added an evade step mechanic. After an attack, a hunter has the ability to quickly evade to the right or left without rolling in order to keep the aggression on the monster and lower the overall recovery time while keeping situational mobility. While attacking, the switch axe also benefits from a low amount of super armor, preventing knockback from weak attacks. A really annoying factor about the weapon in Tri specifically is that it's not even unlocked from the get-go. Instead, players have to reach a certain point in the game where the Argosy captain will teach the blacksmith how to make them. After that, the player will have full access to a very limited set of switch axes. Not every monster had a switch axe equivalent, so the options for a hunter would be far between. Despite its unique design and mechanic, the weapon isn't very popular. In a 10th anniversary poll, the weapon was ranked 11th out of all weapons available by fans, and even in World is usually the 10th most used weapon overall, at least on PC.
I think it's pretty cool. Why?
Despite this, the weapon would see various changes not only throughout different generations, but the releases within those generations as well. With the release of Portable Third, the Switch...
Really, man? With the bunch of files I got like 99 files, right? You kind of start off with that stuff. I thought people would be like using that shit, eating that shit up. I thought people would be using that shit, bro. What the fuck, really? Oh, that's kind of sad. It's such a cool looking weapon as well. Maybe I'll use it. I could try it, man. Why not? I'll try it later. I could.
Switch axe would receive a brand new icon. Originally, it boasted a design that looked solely like an axe, without actually conveying its ability to shift between two modes. Starting in Portable Third, the new icon was designed to show the two sides or modes of the weapon with different blades on each end. This icon design would persist throughout the remainder of the series. Not only was the weapon fully available from the get-go, but monsters that originally didn't have a switch axe equivalent now gained a version of their own, making the roster for the weapon much larger in comparison to its Wii counterpart. This wasn't only the case for Tri monsters, but for Monster Hunter Freedom Unite and Portable Third exclusive monsters as well, really fleshing out the weapon. Moves that were annoying to use before, like the pseudo-infinite slashing attack, were now able to be cancelled out by evading. Performing infinite combos was also much easier in this entry, with both sword and axe forms allowing the user to simply press triangle repeatedly to do so. Additional changes included 2 new potential files for the weapon, those being the poison file, which can inflict the poison ailment, and exhaust files, which allow the hunter to drain stamina from the monster and potentially stun them. 3 Ultimate took some
that's insane.
Notes from Portable Third and made the switch axe available from the get-go. The hunter no longer had to advance through this storyline in order to unlock it and would have a beginner bone axe available in their equipment box right away. Other than bringing over most of the weapon branches introduced in Portable Third, there weren't many changes this iteration, and there wouldn't be further mechanical changes until Generation 4. Let's take a look now.
Sure, I can't wait to see the worlds, bro. Because I have viewed on some of what it looks like, but I've never actually seen like a player holding it, even myself. Gen 4, okay.
Monster Hunter 4 and 4 Ultimate added a few new additions to the switch axe, but nothing incredibly major. Of course, there's aerial attacks, and even an aerial reload if the hunter is below 40% on their gauge. Both sword and axe mode also have their own jumping attacks of varying effectiveness. A new double slash move is introduced that can launch the hunter forward slightly, and this move can be comboed into a quick elemental thrust to elemental discharge finisher. Remember the hack and slash move that drains stamina? It now has a high damage finisher introduced to it, which propels the hunter forward
that's
and can be sidestepped out of, really upping the usefulness of the combo and mobility of the hunter overall. I like it. On generations, we get to see the large inclusion of mechanics through hunter arts and styles. Just like previous videos, I won't go into every style and art, but we'll take a surface level look at the ones that were used in majority or the most effective. Like one can expect with various styles, multiple moves may be shifted around or locked out completely depending on which one you are currently using. In terms of effectiveness, aerial style is actually pretty decent. While using aerial style in sword mode, the kickoff launcher actually becomes an attack of its own, which contributes to 2 different hits with an upward and downward swing respectively. This is especially useful for dealing mounting damage thanks to the 2 hits and makes it a widely popular option for hunters. Elemental Discharge also starts off with an aerial combo that is stronger than your typical variation
Crazy.
of the move. In Generations Ultimate, Alchemy style is possibly the most effective on the Switch Axe in comparison to any other weapons, considering it changes the attacks in a very unique way. Now
How?
all attacks on the X button will be axe attacks and automatically morph into axe mode while comboing. Similarly, all A attacks will be sword attacks and morph accordingly,
Huh.
and that's honestly just a really cool mechanic.
That's
to
sick,
introduce.
actually.
Valor style has multiple moves that can be cancelled out of the Valor sheath, including morph moves from each form and both an X and A move for both the axe and sword respectively.
Cool.
For example, while in sword mode, cancelling out of the sheath with X will perform a strong upper swing. Once in Valor mode, hunters get access to an infinite morph attack combo that they can use by simply spamming R after an attack. On top of that, the sword
Crazy.
gauge will begin to recharge faster, and they can perform a special elemental discharge finisher where the initial charge is faster and the burst activates twice for
insane.
incredibly high damage.
Holy
Many of the arts
shit.
are fairly useful with the weapon as well. For example, Demon Riot will allow the sword gauge to drain over time, but in exchange, all sword attacks become stronger, and Tempest Axe, introduced in Generations Ultimate specifically, creates an overtime effect that makes multiple attack animations faster, and introduces a vertical slash
That's
attack
insane,
similar
my
to
God.
the finisher seen in the hack
It
and
just
slash
makes your attack speed like generally faster. Wow.
combo. The
I like
chopping
it, I
hack and
like
slash
it.
ability specifically becomes
This like Hunter Arts thing, this is really cool. Oh my god. Like it's giving you even more variety. Oh man, I wish other iterations of like modern Monster Hunter could do that. You're like opting for other playstyles within the same weapon, so it's not, you want a bit of like uniqueness to each like player and how they play. It's really cool.
incredibly fast and costs half the normal amount of stamina. Energy Charge was another hunting art that instantly charges the sword gauge. The art itself charges pretty fast, but the rate in which it charges was nerfed slightly in Generations Ultimate. However, due to how effective it is, it's possible for hunters to rarely if ever revert to axe mode if they prefer not to. Honestly, from the point of try up until 4U, the Switch Axe pretty much started with it all. There weren't many major changes that needed to be made to the weapon due to the overall amount of options and utility it had at its disposal. Generations
There's so much variation with it, dude. You got, obviously, you can go for a more aggressive play style, different files you could use. Man, come on. The variations of it is amazing.
Ultimate really blew the door wide open once again with the inclusion of styles and arts, bringing the functionality of the Switch Axe to an all-time high. Now, let's move on to Generation 5 and see what World brought to the table.
Alright. Can't wait. The design of this shit is so unique, bro. Seriously, man. Where are you...
amped for
Bro, where are you gonna see this type of, like shit anywhere else? Like, a Switch Axe? Come on. Really?
Generation 5? This is such a dumb joke. Because the amped state of the Switch Axe was first introduced in this generation. World adds a new mechanic where attacking with the Switch Axe in sword mode will fill up a glowing meter effect around your sword gauge. Once full, the hunter will enter the amped state and gain additional damage as well as a new mechanic related to the weapon's file. As the hunter attacks in this state,
Okay.
the file will begin to apply an extra coat, dealing extra file specific damage to the monster. Discharge attacks also change within this state. Hunters can still perform the
Okay.
forward thrust attack into discharge, but if the forward thrust connects
Holy
with the
shit.
monster, the hunter will cling to whichever part they made contact with.
Okay. Run that shit back. I'm trying to see, bro. No.
But if the forward thrust connects with the monster, the hunter will cling
Oh
to
my
whichever part they
God.
made contact with. Following this, hunters will perform a high damage discharge attack on the part that they are clinging onto.
That's
before jumping
insane.
off. This state is incredibly useful
Yeah.
and great for maximizing damage, while giving the Switch Axe a little more meter management in comparison to its previous iterations. The state will revert over time, allowing hunters to build it up once again, meaning hunters are heavily rewarded for
Also, you're moving generally a bit faster. You're moving at least like walking pace, which is... I know it may not sound like it, but it's fucking revolutionary, bro. I'm a fucking great sword user.
consistently attacking in sword mode. Speaking of meter management, morphing
Holy.
from one to the next also replenishes the gauge slightly, making it much easier to keep active. Morphing attacks are now easier to perform than ever and can be chained from almost every move in the weapon's arsenal, and the axe form actually gains its own fade slash ability. What's with every weapon stealing longsword mechanics? Something mentioned to me in the comments
See, stop glazing. I'm kidding. I know he just likes the longsword. Fair enough, bro. Fair enough.
Of previous videos is that I don't often talk about sliding attacks that are unique to this generation of the series. Sliding and pressing triangle will perform a basic axe form aerial attack, but jumping and pressing R2 will perform the upward and downward sword form slash similar to what we saw from aerial style in Monster Hunter Generations.
Cool.
This is the most effective attack generally, as it performs 2 attacks and leaves you in sword form, and you can immediately enter elemental discharge while performing it. And normal aerial attacks from jumping off a cliff remain mostly unchanged. Moving on to Iceborne, the big differences lie in each form. Axe form has been reworked slightly in how some of the combos work. Since I'm playing on Iceborne, I can't really show the differences, but the main combo has been reverted to what we've seen in previous generations. Additionally, the hack and slash or wild swing combo can now perform the overhead heavy slam finisher, which will power up axe form for a short period afterward, allowing it to, I think, do more damage and flinch monsters easier. Also, performing a slinger burst to cancel out of the wild swing will send the hunter flying backward for a good evasive opportunity. If you're wondering why I didn't show the fade slash animation when talking about it, that's because it was replaced completely in Iceborne. Instead of simply slashing away, the hunter will now evade backwards with an upward slash. The animation is much faster than
that's sick.
Also, if everybody's getting fade slashes, I am now starting a petition to improve the fade slash for the longsword in Rise.
Make LS fade slash real good. I should go for the head.
Another part of the petition says that they need to send me a free copy, so be sure to sign. Thanks, Capcom. On to sword form, it should be mentioned that the clutch claw mechanic introduced to all weapons works as an axe form specific attack for the switch axe. However, the elemental discharge ability can now be comboed into a clutch claw attack. Now this functionality of this move is weird. Like I said, it basically cancels your elemental discharge into a clutch claw grapple.
And I couldn't get footage of it.
Which is fine, but if you enter the amped state while grappling, you'll perform the elemental discharge as soon as you cling to the monster. I don't know, I feel like I'm missing something about this mechanic, as it seems really weird. Finally, we can move on to Rise, and as always I can point out that 1, this is the demo and not the full game, and 2, we are only going to be given 2 out of many potential Silkbind attacks, so what I mentioned here won't be everything the weapon has available to it. Anyway, there's nothing particularly crazy that's been changed in Rise in comparison to Iceborne. Once again, if you're familiar with the previous entry, you'll probably feel right at home with this one. What Rise does contribute is more of an incentive to utilize axe form rather than just seeing it as a means of entering sword form. Take the charged up effect that would be bestowed on the weapon after performing the overhead slam from Wild Swing. The move is now called Max Potency, and
I just realized I really like this weapon, bro. Not because of the file or the sword thing, but I realized it's not just, oh, cool sword. I realized, like, most of the time you're using an axe. It's more of an axe weapon than anything. I might just try this out later. Oh my god, this is really cool, actually.
While I'm unsure if the effects from Iceborne are the same, one new effect to it is that it can speed up charging the amped state gauge while in sword form. Hunters can now enter maximum potency in axe form, switch to sword form, and have a much easier time building up the amped state. Potentially the biggest addition aside from the Silkbind attacks is that the amped state now applies file effects to not only the sword form, but the axe form as well, and that's pretty cool. If for some reason you find yourself running out of sword gauge and you switch back to axe, the effects of your files will still apply, making reverting to axe form much less of a chore and much more effective overall. Now, the first Silkbind attack, Invincible Gambit, seemed pretty useless to me, but who knows, maybe it can be better utilized by people that main the weapon. It launches the hunter forward in a combo that seems to have an effect similar to the Rocksteady Mantle, where you can't be knocked back but will still take damage, so it could be potentially useful as an evasive option, or if you absolutely must power through towards a monster. Hunters can also combo out of it, leading to high damage, but it didn't feel right to me. Switch Charger, the second Silkbind attack, seems a bit more useful.
I always appreciate, though, like, attacks that could make you sort of power through monster attacks as well, because it's giving you both a sense of formidability. Is that even a word? I don't know. It makes you seem like formidable, and it's not just that. Like, you can keep up like a more aggressive tempo if you're using it like regularly and you're hitting it right. Because, like, well, obviously, you know, you're powering through the attacks, you don't have to play safe. You just have to power through it, and then after that, they're done with their animation, and then you can keep hitting for, like, basically, like, 2 times the damage you would have inflicted by playing it safe.
impactful. On top of launching you forward slightly, it also recharges your gauge by a fixed amount and prevents it from depleting for a finite period of time. This is particularly useful for when you want to stay in sword mode for as long as possible and get as much damage dealt as possible. Invincible Gamut can be swapped out with another Silkbind attack known as Soaring Wyvern Blade, which launches the hunter in the air and performs an advancing slash towards the enemy. If the attack connects, the amp gauge fills and a large explosion will be produced. Overall, this seems like the better of the two options in my opinion. For other switch skills, forward slash can be swapped out for forward overhead slash, which seems to be good at reaching high up hit zones like Wyvern's heads. If you perform a sword morph attack out of this, you'll get a double slash, so it seems good for damage output as well. The final switch skill is swapped with Finishing Discharge, and aptly named Compressed Finishing Discharge, which has super armor and performs a high damage elemental finisher that is independent of the
Holy shit!
For a weapon that was first released,
oh, that looked pretty cool. Look at this
finisher that is independent of the amp gauge.
You're spinning it and it's releasing it, right? You get the steam coming off. Oh my god, that's raw. That's awesome,
super
bro.
Armor performs a high damage elemental finisher that is independent of the amp gauge.
That is amazing.
For a weapon that was first released in Generation 3, there was a surprising amount of content about it to cover. I think that's because the weapon packed so much functionality and utility within it straight from the get-go.
Just in of itself, which is amazing.
And then added small improvements through each game release and each generation. Comparing one release to the next, you may not see a large amount of changes to the weapon, but from the start of Generation 3 to where we are now in Rise, the Switch Axe has built up a surprising amount of depth. From a weapon that seemed complicated to use at first glance, but was actually fairly simple to utilize, to a destructive force that takes a bit longer to master, but is much more interesting to play in my opinion. Anyway, that's all I have for you today in regards to the Switch Axe.
Fuck. Okay, we got hammer. Hold on. Let me check. Oh my god. Then again, it's a 4-hour video. Should we end here? Okay, fine. We'll do well with like maybe 4 weapons right now. This is a really in-depth video though. This is amazing. Because usually well, not usually. I meant to say like you'd think a weapon covering. Well, then again, these are changes. I thought he was gonna cover like how they played well as weapons and how they functioned, or I thought like history meant he was gonna talk about how they came to be. What was the big idea? Why make this, right? But honestly, this was an equally amazing video. We're getting in depth about how it's progressed and how it's, you know, improved or changed. Like, sure, something can improve, something can change, but it doesn't mean improved, right? Anyhow, and then you get a lot of these things in where they're changing with each iteration, right? But you're getting a bit more flavor here and there as the devs play around with the things that they already have and improve upon stuff. Like how the Switch Axe literally apparently, right? Obviously I don't play the older games. Like I've never played Try. Apparently, it wasn't even a thing that you could have as a beginner starting weapon. Like, in the portable, they said it was already, like, you're good to go. You got, like, the bone axe variant, and then, by then, you can go from there. But apparently, like, in its first iteration, the one that isn't portable, it was just like, no, you gotta learn this first. But, over time, as they came to be actual parts of the game, you know, you see it improved over time, the weapon design. Honestly, I'll be so real, the weapon design for like either, oh, not 4 was actually pretty cool, but some of it along with the Rise looked a little ridiculous. Looked a little ridiculous. Am I saying it's bad? Not really. But I'm saying like more of it is like kind of a clusterfuck in terms of design. But I don't mind it. Like, I mean, hey, we're talking about monster parts here in Monster Hunter. Hey. Like, well, then again, I go for like the more simplistic greatsword, which doesn't require a lot of design. It just requires a more static design because like it's not switching forms. It doesn't have multiple features. It doesn't have files you have to reload, and it doesn't have like what was the other one? Charge blade. It doesn't have a bunch of shit you could combine with it. All you need really is a static model mainly for the greatsword. So fair enough, I suppose. I'm really comparing my views to it. I'm really comparing my views a lot as like a greatsword user compared to like other people that would play a little more complicated weapons. Let's say like the hunting horn, or again the other things I stated: charge blade, switch axe, all these other things. Anyhow, that has been an amazing video. Obviously, yes, we will continue more. I know this is a heavily requested video, like over the span of months, right? Considering over the span of months. But I hope you enjoyed this first one, and I'm sorry for yapping too much. I think this has almost been like 40 minutes of yapping. I don't know, but we'll see in the editor. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Ephemeros. As always, please do take care of yourselves, and see you in the next video. Bye bye. Also, make sure to sub. Give me subs.